Welcome to another unscripted episode of Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. And the reason I say it's unscripted is because I have some notes here in front of me that I jotted down about different topics. And what I tend to do in this format is I pick a topic and try to provide just my thoughts around it as it relates to you, the retail leader, and what you may be going through. And the first one seems like we got a lot of great responses. And because I think, sometimes podcasts, we can be very formulaic. And even my editor, he said, I like it because it's like, it feels like you're freestyling, like old school, rapper, like freestyling. So I don't have those skills. I do have the freestyle podcasting skills, so I'm going to utilize it. I'm going to utilize it today. So once again, welcome to Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. This is the unscripted episode. I have 2 or 3 topics that I'm going to be talking about today, and just sharing some of my thoughts around them. And hopefully you get to see yourself in these situations. The goal is to provide guidance, share my experience, and also to help you, whether you've been through this situation before and you can see where you either did it successfully or you didn't do it, or you may end up seeing these type of situations come in your career. And typically, these ideas come from the coaching sessions, DMs that I get, just conversations that I have on the regular with different leaders. And so it's coming from a lot of different sources, or the questions and ideas are coming from a lot of different sources. But a lot of them come from me too. I may wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night and I have an idea. I'll have my phone with me and I just jot it down. So the first one that I want to talk about is this concept and idea about being outperformed even if you are ready. Those of you who have who've listened to this podcast or may have had some type of conversations with me, right? This story that I'm about to tell you is I've told it before, but it's extremely relevant. It's extremely relevant. So outperform even if you're ready. So here's what happened to me. My career was very fast tracked, meaning that I was well ready before a lot of the opportunities were presented to me. And so I think what happened in this situation, I was going up for a promotion. Me and another guy, we had went through the process. People knew us, and there was, I think, one opportunity left for this. It was a big role, and we knew each other, really well. We had sort of came up through the company, different roles, different areas, different markets, all the good stuff. And there was a last test that we had, if you will. Those of you who have been in retail for a while and you've been able to go up the ladder, you'll know exactly this type of test I'm talking about. We were flown into New York, into Long Island, and there was a regional meeting that was there, that was taking place. But we weren't really there for the meeting. We were there to go and walk stores. So they gave us a car and we went and drove to, I think, 4 or 5 stores. And we had to walk these stores, gather information, insights, yada, yada, yada. Then we had to come back and at the end of the day and present the information. Now, this is something I've done throughout my career. right? So for me, I didn't take it as serious as I should have. I I sort of um I realized that I could probably get by, or at least I thought I could get by with my level of readiness that I had already created. And long story short was that my buddy outperformed me, not in a performative type standpoint, but he outperformed me. He took it serious, and even though we were, friends, he did see this as a competition. Um, I, on the other hand, uh, mistook my level of readiness that it would just be assumed that I would be able to get this next role. I had built up a good name, built up solid reports, promoted a ton of people, all of these different things, and I thought that that level of success would just catapult me to the next level. Just without question, Steve's ready. Let's give him the opportunity. Bada bing, bada boom. It's a done deal, right? Even if we have to go through this formality of, of going to stores, right? So we came back at the end of the day and we had to sit in front of a panel to discuss what we what we saw, how we would address it, all these different things. I I took it for granted and I ended up leaning on a lot of sort of established ideas of Steve. So let me explain. Let me explain what I mean here. Over time, your team, your boss, they all get to uh, learn who you are, and they all start learning who you are, your mannerisms, how you speak, how you address certain things, how you solve problems, how you identify problems. So there is a certain uh, a way that you as a leader will do things. And over time, people will learn, it's almost like playing poker. Like people will learn your tell, right? I suck at poker, by the way. So as I was speaking, I felt it. I felt what I was saying was falling on deaf ears because they sort of heard it before. This test that we had wasn't about showing your level of readiness for where you were. It was about showing your level of readiness for the next thing, creating new ideas, identifying new issues, new habits, new circumstances that you hadn't previously experienced, and being okay with communicating that. And while we can all be ready, we can think we're ready for the next opportunity, you can still be outperformed. That day, I was outperformed, and I felt it. Like, at the end of the conversations, I was like, "He got the job." And he did. He got the role. And my feedback from my boss was exactly what I felt during the conversation and what I just told you, was that, "Steve, you." And here's the interesting part that for me that I knew, and this is gonna be for you too, is that I knew what to say in a bigger, broader, more forward-thinking standpoint and perspective around the stores and around how I see problems and how I would address them. But I didn't do it because I took it for granted. I took that opportunity for granted, and I thought that I would be able to get by with, let's just say, if you think about law of the lead, I was, at a 7 or 8. I felt that I could just get away with that. What what they needed was for me to be thinking and communicate at a 9 and 10 level, even though I wasn't there yet, right? Even though I wasn't at that level yet, I could still think in those frameworks. So I wanted to just share that story with you because I know that a lot of you struggle with the the next level, your best next and how to get there. And a lot of you feel that you're ready. A lot of you feel that you have probably been passed over. And while some of it may be true from a corporate standpoint, not really recognizing who you are, maybe your contributions, dare I say, a lot of it has to do with how we carry ourselves and how we present ourselves and position ourselves, not just where we are, but for the next. And that's where a lot of hard work comes into play. That's where a lot of self actualization comes into play, introspection, vulnerability, being able to take feedback or uh, proactively solicit feedback. These are the things that will move you from ready to the next position, to the next opportunity. There are a lot of people who are ready, but there are only a few. There are only a few who are selected to move to the next level. So I hope that story helped you. And if you have any thoughts or comments, please don't hesitate. You get more stuff like this inside the campus. So if you're not a member of the campus, please make sure you go ahead and join the campus. We share a lot of insights and ideas like this inside of the campus too. So at the time of this recording, big big tech company Oracle, big tech company, they have laid off 30,000 employees. 30,000. I mean, get that like number. 30,000 employees worldwide, not just in the States, but worldwide. And a lot of the reason or rationale that they said was around, and we hear this right now in retail. So I'm going to bring it all back to retail. We A lot of the rationale was around the implementation of AI and how AI is, you know, making individuals and people redundant, within the space, within different tech companies, um, you know, uh, inventory capacity, um, assortment, all these different things, right? That AI is coming and trying to show us how to do things better. Now, understand this. Let me just set this foundation. I'm a fan of AI. I'm a fan of AI because I do believe if it's used properly, it will help us save time. It will help you get to a solution, or at least a number, a selection of solutions, and then you still have to decide. You still have to use your own judgment and experience to understand where you need to go next. And the reason I wanted to bring this one up was because as a leader, what we tend to do when we come to um, new innovations, especially in the retail space, one of the things that I want leaders not to do is to automatically think that certain tech will take your job. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to not see that and to not think that. And I know um, the uh, the pressure that a lot of leaders are under, and how do you compete against better technology, right? How do you compete? This conversation and things I'm about to say here are part of a bigger episode that I'm going to be recording And it's really about the shift in your role as a leader, right? The this 30,000 people that were uh, sent an email at 6 a.m., their lives got turned upside down, like literally, like overnight. I don't want that to happen to you. So, how do you combat this? How do you, as a leader, understand and come to grips with technology is changing, things are going to be different. Um, how do I adapt? The best way that you can do this is that you have to, and I know it's going to sound very simple when I say it, but it's true. You have to you have to own a position, and what I mean by that is not your title, but you have to own a what we call a valued a position or a valued opinion for yourself, for your team, and for your organization. And why do I pick those three? Because it's important as a leader, you understand who you are as a leader, what value you bring to yourself, to the team, and to the organization. And you have to be crystal clear about it. You have to be crystal clear. You have to understand your team. Whenever you're in conversation with someone, you have to be able to articulate the the good, the bad, the ugly of your team, but then also how you're helping them move forward. This is all going to make sense here in a second. And then the last part, and this is probably the most important one, the most important one is to have a valued opinion on the organization, or I call it the business. And I'm gonna lean into this one a little bit more than the one about you and your team, and because it's relevant to this AI explosion that we're seeing, and that a lot of people are have been thinking about. So when you have a valued opinion on the business of retail, you you set yourself apart from other people. You set yourself apart from other people. Instead of having a visit when the CEO visits your market and he or she are talking about uh, AI implementation and new different initiatives that are coming and taking place. So instead of you becoming apprehensive about it, you say, you know what? I read that. I read about that. And here's my opinion on that. And here's what I see someone else doing. Not even a company in the same market, right? Or the same industry. Here's another company that I see actually implementing AI in this way. And here's what we can potentially do, right now in order to lay a really good foundation for the AI implementation. Or depending on how confident you are, you could say, I see it working, but here are some of the limitations that we need to address before we actually implement it. The reason I want you to understand this is because having a valued opinion of the business of retail sets you apart, and it it builds confidence, not just in yourself, but in your leaders. They start to build more and more confidence in who you are. Technology over time it becomes a commodity, right? Who you are as a leader sometimes can become a commodity. Your thought process, if you haven't uh, developed a higher level of thinking, your rudimentary ideas, can be a commodity, right? You don't want that. You don't want to be like everybody else. Those who listen to this podcast, I know you don't want to be like everybody else. You want to take time to grow and mature. see yourself and see your business and see where you want to go in a different light. So when you hear stories that one company laid off 30,000 people, it's a shock to the system. But what I want you to do and to think about is, how do I upskill myself? How do I retrench, understand who I am, what I have, what I can offer, and then turn that into a story about yourself, about your team, about your business. So when you get questions around technological advances, new initiatives, you actually have an opinion. You actually have something to say. And what that also does is that it increases, what I would call a wedge, right? You start to wedge yourself into the minds of other people. You start to wedge yourself deeper into that role, right? Into the ethos of your current company. So much so it becomes hard for them to let you go. Right. I'm not saying this is a silver bullet for job cuts or anything like that, but the more you can become a wedge and you can push yourself deeper. I was talking to a client a while ago, and we were talking about their particular growth, right? And um, helping him, helping him. He wanted to help his team, right? And so I said the best thing you could do is to help them become more seen, right? And but what he needed to do first was that he needed to create more roots in his current position. So he needed to go deeper into the understanding, the capacity, the expertise, the communication from top to bottom, left to right, um, problem solving, teaching his team how to problem solve. Like all of these things created deeper and deeper roots for him in his role and within an organization. And those of us who know, uh, you think if you look at a tree, the bigger the tree, the larger the root system underneath. The larger the root system underneath. Same thing holds true for you as a leader. The deeper you go, and the more indispensable you become, your influence grows, your impact grows, your reach grows. So instead of us trying to go shallow and wide, my focus for you is to go narrow and deep, because then when you have deeper roots, it does become a lot harder for them to say no to you. So take heart. I know when we hear stories like this about job cuts and big things like that taking place, it's hard. It's hard for us to not think it could potentially happen to us. Okay, for number three, so this is going to be the last one for this episode. I came across this article, and um, it spoke about uh, leaders who gloss over issues. I forgot what they called it. I think they called it the Gaussian effect, something along those lines. And it struck a chord with me because I've dealt with leaders like that. And if I can be very honest with you, as a young leader, I was I glossed over a lot of things. So this idea around glossing over is that someone brings you an idea or an issue or a problem, but you don't actually deal with it, right? You say that you will, you put it off, you give people half answers, and you hope that it's going to go away. Or you hope that other people or that person that brought you the problem will figure out and solve it for themselves. That is the wrong thinking as a leader. That is the wrong thinking as a leader. And it is the easiest and the quickest way to lose respect. It's the quickest and it's the easiest way for you to lose your team. It really is. This glossing over effect can be really damaging. Here's why some leaders will do it. Uh, and I think that when I was creating these some of these thoughts, I was like, okay, let me make sure that I'm putting things in here that I potentially did myself, right? Because I don't want this to be about like, negative leaders out there. I do want to show that I've been through this at every single level in my career, senior level, all the way down to the store level. And so, why do leaders do it? There's probably several, but here's three: to protect themselves, or to protect the image of the business. Dare I say, number two, which is to protect themselves, is probably the number one. That should be number one. The majority of what we tend to see and what this will cost the leader is a team. They'll feel it immediately when you're glossing something over. The trust drops, and it's not overnight. It's very quietly. The trust begins to erode. Whispers start to happen. Um, People stop going to you. They go to other people. They may end up going to your peers for a solution. Standards drop. Approachability drops. Remember, we define approachability as the difference between being informed versus finding out. So when you are glossing things over, you are finding out more things, meaning that people come to you less. And gosh, you're being informed of less. There's so many negative things that tend to take place when you gloss over an issue. And I was saying before that it's more about themselves than it is anything else. The idea of not having an answer, maybe maybe giving the wrong information for some leaders, even at the highest level, it becomes difficult. I'll give you an example to illustrate this story. This is coming directly from my book, and I had a leader who came to me, uh, and they handed me their 2-week notice, and I said, "Whoa!" And this is one of my good leaders too. This is one of my good leaders. So it took me by surprise. Took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting this. So we're having a conversation. She just says, "Steve, I've just felt like you're too busy for me. Every time I come to you with something, you say you'll get to it and you don't. But I see you helping and getting to other peers with their issues." And I looked over sort of the last 3 to 5 months, and she was correct. She was correct. She was correct. She was a top performer. Part of me was like, well, she'll figure it out. I don't need to give her all the answers. But here's the gap, and here's the issue that I had to learn the hard way by losing a really good leader. A really good leader was that my leadership had capped out. My leadership was at a level, and her leadership was at a similar level to mine, and I didn't have any more to give her. So let's use the law of the lid illustration again. the John Maxwell law of the lid. So if you're 8, right, as a leader, you can lead 6s, 7s, right? Everything below. It gets a little hard to probably lead maybe another 8. What I realized was that I had stopped growing. I had become so operationally focused that my leadership capacity suffered. I wasn't taking in new information, reading books, attending conferences, asking questions um, about things that would help me grow. I had completely stopped because I got so fixated on just growing the business and I stopped growing myself. And when you do that, you come up against leaders who will either equal your leadership capacity or potentially, um, outgrow you, right? I have personally outgrown, some of the people that were leading me in certain situations, right? This was later on in my career where I can identify it. But at that moment, I think I was 26, 27 at the time. And this is years ago. I'm old. And but I realized was that, man, I had capped out. I couldn't give her anymore. Couldn't give her anymore. I just couldn't. And I ended up letting her leave. And it wasn't until probably 6 months later where I I was able to realize what happened. I was talking to a coach that I had, not the same coach. I wish Coach Perry was my coach back then, but this coach was really good too. Though this was I was young, like I said, I was younger, and he talked to me about this. He said, "I think she outgrew you," and I was like, "What? What do you mean? What are you talking about?" He said, what's the last book you read?" And it had been probably over 8, maybe 9 months. When's the last conference? That had probably been about 2 years. Um, when's the last podcast you listened to on leadership? Oh man, it had been a while. I had really literally intentionally stopped growing. Not intentionally, but unintentionally stopped growing. And you as a leader, you have to be aware of these moments in your career where you can plateau. And if I can be very honest with you, a lot of the retail companies are okay with you plateauing because you are still giving them what they need. Does that make sense? Right? You are still giving them what they need. So they're okay with you hitting a lid because your output is still satisfying the needs of the business, but you're not satisfying your individual needs. You're not satisfying the needs of of those around you, those you are leading. And this is why I started our podcast, Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, because I was getting so many people coming to me with all of these unspoken challenges that they were going through. Like we would meet for coffee or whatever it was. I was just I was getting inundated, right? I said, okay, we got to have a conversation. Something has to start, right? So we did that, and then Worthy Retail, started, and then now over the last 2 years, we've been growing the campus as the vehicle to help leaders think differently, to challenge assumptions and ideas, to move past, you know, uh, the the training and development, the formulaic training and development that you get from a company standpoint. The better routines. Leaders don't need better routines. They need more capacity. They need to understand emotional intelligence. They need to understand the true essence of self awareness. They need to understand how to communicate at a higher level while still being relatable to all of those around them. This is why we've built what we've built. Like this is why I always say that I wish I had the campus when I was a leader. I had to figure out a lot of this stuff on my own, and I'm glad I did. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You do not have to become a leader that will just gloss over different ideas, different things, on problems that you feel like you can't solve. I see it too much. I see it too much nowadays. I don't want you to fall into that trap. I don't want you to get comfortable, if I can say so. I really don't want you to get comfortable. As a leader, you should not get comfortable. Okay, here's a book. Here's a book that I recommend. And I don't know, it just popped into my head. Andy Grove's book. And I don't have it on our campus book list. But I reference it all the time. And it's called Only the Paranoid Survive. Only the Paranoid Survive by Andy Grove. Get that book, read it, give me your thoughts on it. Um, he talks about it in a from a business standpoint. Like if you're a business, like you have to be paranoid, meaning that someone is always looking to take your lunch, right? Someone's always looking to take your position within the industry, and so and it don't mean it's not paranoia in a negative way where you're sort of spazzing out, but it's paranoia in a way that you become more strategic in how you see things. You see opportunities, you create opportunities, and then you move into those opportunities and you let go of some of those things that aren't serving you anymore. So Only the Paranoid Survive by Andy Groves. Get that book. I'm telling you right now, it's going to change how you see the world, how you see things. I'm actually going to be doing a video coming up on our book list. I think we have 20 books in that in our list, and I'm going to be going through all of them and giving you my thoughts and why you should actually even purchase them and read them, because I'm telling you what, if you stop growing, if you stop building your capacity, you will be passed over. You will become irrelevant, and your team will sense it and feel it. So I do not want you to become one of those leaders who glosses over ideas. I really want you to be a leader who will attack the ideas. Take the time to listen. If you can fix it immediately, great. If not, let the person know. But making sure that you are building your capacity so that you can answer questions from a place of confidence, a security in who you are. But more important, you can give your team exactly what they need at that moment. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, a lot of these topics are really just off the top of my head, and I jot them down, and I just go for it. And hopefully you've been able to get some really good ideas and insights from these unscripted episodes. If there's an idea or topic that you want me to talk about, please don't hesitate. You can reach me at the link inside of the show notes on LinkedIn. Connect with us on our podcast page, and leave us a note. Let us know what you want to hear. So thank you for being here for another episode of Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. God bless.